pull-up, overhead press, and deadlift workout. We're working one-arm pull-up progressions. So I give lots of variations to keep it interesting, but the main thing with pull-ups, because most people are challenged with them, is to know where you're at so you can progress it. So depending on where you're at, so I'll give some examples. Someone can't quite get their first pull-up. The most effective way that I've found is doing, jump eccentrics. Usually once you can get 3 10-second eccentrics, you can get a pull-up, but you've got to make sure you're training that through a full range of motion. So if you use the rings, you jump up, control, all the way down to that full range of motion, dead hang, jump up again, and control and come down. Then we've got, once you can get some pull-ups, but you just can't seem to break 6 reps or 8 reps or whatever it is. So you might, so if your max is say 8 reps, you might do your first set just to build some volume, do your first set at 5. So you could do 3 more, but that way you've got more chance of doing 4 sets of 5 than if you do 8 on the first one, 4 on the next one, 3, then 2. So your overall volume's not going to be as good. And then you're trying to just build that volume. So in that last set, you might try and just slow down on the last rep, or you might even do a jump eccentric as an extra rep at the end, just to try and push yourself that bit more to get that extra rep. But it's really important to keep note of where you're at, your rest periods. So, I just use the clock, so when I sit, click over on the 3-minute mark or 4-minute mark, whatever I'm using, I can make note of that and use that as a way to know if I've got that next set performance because I'm getting stronger or because I've used a longer rest period or for whatever reason. I'm actually just staying with just a underhand grip, so I get more of a stretch at the bottom through my lats on the pull-up, and then coming right up, get that nice squeeze, doing that, and then I'm using the bar as well, so it forces that stretch, and then weighted and keeping it even. I want to get the one-arm pull-up by the end of the year and get back up to that. But I find that even though I can go okay by eccentrically long with most of the weight on one arm, it's a huge jump to being able to get to the pull-up, and then also while I'm waiting for my neck to get stronger, to really look after it, I'm just loading up double arm, that way there's less shear force going through the spine, so it's a lot safer, but I can add a lot of extra weight to me and get the strength up through there with a bilateral movement rather than a unilateral movement. Then for the overhead press, it's programmed as an overhead weighted press, so you can use the band, dumbbells, barbell. You can do body weight. The limitation with the floor is obviously the range of motion, so if you've got some dumbbells or boxes to go a bit deeper, and then just make sure that you measure the distance and then use the video as well to see the angle. So obviously if you're out here, there's a lot more weight in the feet in this position, and you're coming forward. So that's going to be a lot easier than if you're coming here and coming up and keeping more weight over the wrist. So it really just depends on the positioning as to how heavy it's going to be. And then you want to make sure that you set yourself up with some marks on the floor or whatever it is, so that each set as you fatigue, you're in the same position. Because otherwise your reps don't really count if you've made it easier and easier, or they do, but it's not the same as if you keep holding that same position, and it just makes it easier to know whether you're actually developing and challenging yourself. For the deadlift, for me I'm not really focusing too much on a deadlift, just getting more flexibility. It's a single leg loaded one, so I'll just work say 2 reps a side, really trying to get that strength and length in my hamstring with straight leg, straight back. Whereas maybe you want to go single leg and do the bent knee, so it's more of a strengthening. I'm getting as heavy squats in once a week, so it's enough. Or you might want to go with the barbell, sumo style, normal style deadlift, whatever it is to develop the deadlift. If you're really going hard with it, you're probably better off to separate the 2 workouts, do the pull-up overhead press, and then do a separate leg workout, because it's so neurologically taxing when you do, and just physically taxing when you're doing really heavy deadlifts. So if you did want to improve it and you're really trying to push up heavy, it's probably better to separate, because a deadlift is a real whole body movement, like everything's working, and you might get more value out of it if you're trying to develop more strength. But put that together in a way that works for you, let me know what you're doing, and then send through a video of your phone if you've got any questions with technique or why you're getting stuck. For me, like my overhead press, the biggest thing that I found is just how tight my lats have been. And because in that last position when you're pressing, if they're tight, it'll pull like that. And I'm pressing with the chest, not actually pushing with the traps and the shoulders. And because of that tension, elbows want to go out instead of being able to lock out and go up. And the ribs want to flare, all of those things. So really focusing more on my mobility through my lats, and then even using my pull-up. I've always said like the pull-up is a great lat stretch if you go to that full range of motion, not just to strengthen the lats, but strengthen it right at the bottom. But now I've switched to that rib to get even more out of that range, and really try and get my ribs at the bottom, in at the bottom of every rep to get more out of it that way as well. So keep us posted, let us know how you're going, and see you soon.